Before we begin, a quick disclaimer. This episode discusses sensitive topics including SB, victim blaming, political intimidation, and systematic abuse. Some content may be distressing or triggering for listeners. If you feel overwhelmed or triggered at any point, please know it's okay to pause, take care of yourself, and then come back later when you're ready. I will also encourage you to seek support from trusted friends, family, or professional resources. Thank you. The individuals mentioned are entitled to the presumption of innocence, and some matters are currently before the courts. This episode is based on available information as of the recording date and aims to inform and foster dialogue. Thank you for listening with an open heart and mind. You know, when I first heard about Natasha and Senator Akpabio saga, to be honest, I wasn't that interested. One, because I don't follow news, okay? At least I am not that much in tune with what is going around, because I found out many of these people, they don't take things seriously. Two, they often push all sorts of nonsense. And I mean, some of you witnessed a government official, perhaps a politician, saying that to everyone that dreadlock was a sign of criminality and ordered police people to arrest on sight.
Not be juju be
You can make
that.
this shit up. To arrest on sight those they see on dreadlock, even if you are in church with your dread and all. And meanwhile, we all know most criminals and insurgents don't have dreadlocks on. Some of them, their heads are well wrapped, and they even rock their agbada well. Okay, it's funny. What hurts me the most wasn't even the tasteless joke. It was the lack of initiative. See, don't get me wrong. I respect my elders, but sometimes you just have to protect your energy. You know, it's not everything you just let in. There should be boundary, like there should be a space for what you allow, okay? Anyways, what caught my attention before I digress was the excessive effort to tarnish Senator Natasha's image. Things that have never happened before in Nigeria, like they took away her security. They stopped her from using her title, Senator. And this was done without proper, no investigation before I say proper investigation. And that wasn't even the end. They went further with some uncreative smear campaign. And what got me thinking was, who would actually believe such nonsense? And so fast, they started calling us stupid. Now, I know Nigerians can be gullible sometimes. I mean, I am gullible. I mean, I can be gullible. But calling us stupid in our face in broad daylight, now, that one stings. I was like, nah, this has to be an intern bad day. Or maybe, I was thinking, some robots got loose on TV. They probably were using clone. I mean, maybe hired some intern to do PR or what? Because, see, I couldn't look at, in fact, at best, I settled with maybe this is a clone because this is a country. This is a country where snake swallows money. Okay. So please, you can't come here and fantasy police me. Please, let me have something. Let the poor breathe, literally. Okay. Honestly, it was getting outrageous because suddenly, because of what a woman said, this whole bra started just because of a woman. Then I heard some mothers, oh goodness, ndene mama, isokwa, ndene mama.
Isokwa.
Suddenly, our virtuous mothers, our mamas, I don't know who released them because they really wanted to be under a masturbation so bad, like. Like our mothers came out and said Natasha is up there embarrassing their son. Like literally. They called her every other name aside from the child of God. Some names I couldn't even mention. Imagine having so much reputable record. And for some reason, the smear campaign was because you spoke out and then you're embarrassing them. You're embarrassing women, mothers who have daughters. Who does this thing? Some even called her a whore, called her Jezebel. Like, all of a sudden, your innocent son. I don't know where they got these actresses from because if these people were actresses, the mothers that came out saying our son, I'm probably thinking these are failed actresses and they decided to test their wits and see how they will shine because a lot of things were not making sense. Now, don't get me to the men's side because the men were busy spilling how she's a gold digger, she's this, she's that. And somehow I think that sent a dog whistle to some Nigerian women. And they came out from the woodworks. But with the way these women acted, I don't think any mother would want to do that. But then again, maybe this is me raising them on too much high standard.
No. It wasn't just you now. We all saw it. Ha! That was very cringy.
Now, I'm not saying the powers that be, they are not on brand because they are well on brand, okay? It's just... But at the level it was done though, you know? It was at the level it was done. Can you imagine? Before I digress again, these things really grabbed my attention. That was when I knew I had to talk about it.
Amaka, some people might say, why get involved in all this political drama? What do you think it takes for someone to stand their grounds like Natasha did in such a high-stake environment?
Well, that's a great question, Ebuka. But just like it is, right, the way it has played out, I'll say everything. I'll say everything because you stand the chance of losing your favor, the benefits you stand to gain, because in this part of the world, unfortunately, government work is not for service, it's for gain, personal gain. So, and sometimes some adults just maybe due to pressure, you know, we underestimate the parts that peer pressure or fear of not wanting to look uncool or the power of group thinking or intimidation. I don't know, but I do know that the stakes are very high, quite high, in fact. It's not just about a seat in Senate. It's about standing up with dignity for justice and for the voice of her people. In the Senate, your seat is your power. It's a signal. It signals influence, respect, and political weight. Recently, the ruling APC party strengthened its grip after 3 opposition senators defected from the PDP. That shift gave APC a fragile majority and with it, the power to rearrange the chamber. Natasha was told to move, but she refused.
That's huge. Saying no in that environment is a bold move. It's not just about a chair, it's a stand against the whole system.
Exactly. Senate President Godwin Akpabio, the chamber's highest ranking official, ordered security to remove her. But this fight was years in the making. Natasha had long challenged Akpabio, demanding transparency over constituency funds, refusing to play by backroom rules, and speaking truth to power in chambers known for silence. This was war. One of the most important but often overlooked parts of Natasha's work in her passionate advocacy for rival was the rival of Ajaokuta Steel Company, a giant in Nigeria's industrial history, and a lifeline for her constituency in Kogi Central. Some of you might not know, but this Ajaokuta Steel is not just any steel plant. It was conceived as the backbone of Nigerian steel industry and a critical driver of economic development and employment in the region. There are a lot of unemployment in Nigeria. Lots. And it was said that this Ajaokuta Steel, if it was implemented, at least for the first start, before you say, okay, let's restructure it, because it has been years, it has not been working, it has not been functioning due to poor maintenance, right? At least 5,000 people. So that is a huge transformation. It's probably more than that, but then again, let's just stay with this, okay? For decades, however, it has been mired in neglect, mismanagement, as I mentioned earlier, and political interference, leaving the community in the nation deprived of its full potential. Now tell me why this lady is hated. Because she's pushing for all this. We all say we want leaders. Natasha has been a tireless voice in the Senate, raising urgent call for government to fulfill its promises, invest in the plant's rehabilitation, and protect the livelihood of thousands who depend on the steel industries.
That's a critical issue. That steel industry will help a lot of people. Calculate the kind of life it will change. We are talking about jobs, community stabilities, and national pride. Even the crude oil have exhausted its usefulness.
Exactly. But despite her persistent efforts, her cause have often been ignored or sidelined. Whenever she brings up the steel industry, she faces resistance, sometimes subtle, sometimes overtly done, as powerful interests prefer to keep the status quo like that. Her fight is not just about the steel. It's about the justice for her people, economic empowerment and breaking the cycle of neglect that had held her constituency back for decades. And remember, before she entered, she promised that this is what she would do, and she has been fighting tirelessly for that. Behind the public drama was a darker story. In December 2023, during a private visit to Akpabio's residence, Natasha alleges he made unwanted sexual advances, including suggestive remarks like, "You can enjoy a whole lot if you take care of me." Her husband, who was present, later advised caution. The Senate Ethics Committee dismissed her complaints, not on the merits, but due to procedural technicalities and the matters being subjudiced.
It's hard to imagine how isolating that must have been. When the very system that's supposed to protect you turns its back.
Yeah. And get this, when she was told to apologize, and after that, when she mocked Akpabio with a satirical apology video, he filed a contempt suit against her. Even the court ordered silence. And mind you, this silence, according to words around, wasn't because of them on their own parts putting effort to research what happened, or more about exposing what is happening. No, is in order to strictly protect Akpabio's image, allegedly. But Natasha's was still echoes, because a lot of things were done to silence her. And we always remember, in her words, if you are silent about your pain, they will assume you're okay. The battle didn't stop at allegations and suspension. Natasha soon faced a relentless smear campaign designed to discredit her and divert attention. Deputy Chief Whip Onyekachi Nwabuenyi called her a gold digger and a blackmailer, accusing her of political blackmail. Senate Majority Leader Michael Bamidele accused her of political grandstanding. Of course, Natasha the Queen Amo didn't sit down taking this. She slapped them with a whooping 5 billion defamation suit against Nwabuenyi. Now tell me why there were leaked videos showing politicians allegedly forging signatures for recall petition against her. Make this up.
Confidence in her because of her gross misconduct in the Senate that led us to a 6-month suspension where Kogi Central will not be represented at the National Assembly, the Senate arm. So we have come to recall her back so that we can have a representative in the Senate, because as a people we cannot afford not to have a representative in the Senate arm for another 1 year. So we are here to tell INEC to please follow the constitutional process for our recall so that our recall process can begin. That's why we're here.
Is it the entire constituency or just a group of people? Under which platform are you representing?
Okay, it is a concern for youth and women.
Okay.
Yes.
What is that?
You cannot submit a petition without having to go and get signatures of registered voters, and that's why we're now saying, as a people, we are recalling her back from the Senate because we have gotten what it takes to recall her back from the Senate.
Like how many number of registered voters?
We have 488,000 registered voters from Kogi Central, and as I speak to you right now, we have more than 250,000 voters that have signed for her recall.
This matters deeply, because what Natasha is facing is not an isolated case. It's a reflection of a common reality in Nigeria. If someone in a position of power can be subjugated and subjected to this kind of treatment, imagine what ordinary people, the masses, are enduring. Think about it. the countless young girls, the everyday women who don't even have anyone to stand up for them, who may not even know that support and resources even exist. Because not everyone is privy to all this information. In fact, if you are even privy to it, it's a form of privilege. We shouldn't be so, because this is basic human rights. Even in those resources, they are imperfect and need I mention, difficult to access. And to the fathers, and please, this is for you fathers, because one thing I noticed is that some people were just looking the other way because they saw themselves in Akpabio, or saw themselves in the eyes of the castrated quote-unquote men who were accused wrongly. But I beg you, listening now, some of you may not have realized, but your daughters might have experienced this before. Sexual harassment in Nigeria is vastly underreported. You know, just because she hasn't told you doesn't mean it hasn't happened yet. What concerns me most is the complacency many Nigerians show towards this issue until it hits close to home. That's when you see someone shouting on top of his voice, like, when it's about you or someone you love, is that when you speak up? Don't wait till then. Don't even wait till it reaches your turn. By then, it might be already too late. So you better speak up now. And I say this because I remember being in a room. I don't know if I've told you about that. I was in a room in Clubhouse.
Which of the stories? You've told me a lot because you always come with your stories there. Which one?
I don't think I've told you this one. But anyways, I was in a room, and when this whole thing came out, you know, when it caught my attention, and in fact, this was also part of the reason that made me decide, okay, I'm bringing this to my podcast. And I remember in my previous podcast, when I was still She's on the Move, I talking about it, but I wanted to, you know, gather all my information as well, because, you know, you can't come and talk about your guys at the top and you're not, you know, you're not doing your research well. So, but one thing I noticed was some people were desensitized, because especially people I look up, like people you feel like, oh, these people are educated, well, and I don't blame them. I understand some of the bias. Bias is like, so there was this dude, he felt like, oh, they're politicians, they're all shady, you know, they're all shady, and this is probably one of the business they're doing to garner attention, you know. Cool, right? Remember, I even told you I didn't pay attention to it, so I understood that sentiment to an extent. Right? But the problem I had was with those that were with all the facts, and others, their sentiments were that this woman, she's a big woman, she's alright, she'll be alright, that is not our problem. And some were like, what is it that she's going to experience, or she'll experience that hasn't been experienced before? Like, that makes it okay. Like, that makes it cool. Especially after all this, and that was, you know, before I was thinking, oh, this smear campaign was, it was a joke at best, because it wasn't well thought out. Only for me to find out that some people ate this shit up. Some people literally believe it. Or is it because it was a woman, and once she just call a woman a whore, or call her she is not a good woman, all of a sudden people come out from the woodworks to want to support an agenda, because so we must silence this woman, right? But then again, maybe it's just me overthinking. So, okay, but the one that got me was this guy had no affiliation whatsoever with Senator Akpabio, our daddy, in the high places, had nothing, no relation, had no political gain. But somehow I felt like, oh, this is an innocent man. I know that there are men out there who have faced scandal, knowing fully well how sexual assault is underreported in Nigeria. Like, how many women, you see, a lot of women even hide it. A lot of women go as far to shield themselves from this. Then all of a sudden, you know, and someone was just sheer brokehood, nothingness, not because they had any, no thoughts of their own. Have you heard of the word dog whistle and wondered what it really meant? No, it's not about the actual whistle, because if you think it's dog whistle, no. It's a secret code, a message that sounds normal to most people, but carries a hidden meaning for specific groups. Let me tell you a story so you understand well. A few years ago, a politician gave a speech filled with words like family values and law and order. To most, it sounded like everyday political talk, but to some, it was a signal, an unspoken message about who belongs and who doesn't. It stirred up feelings of fear and division without ever saying it outrightly. That's a dog whistle. It's like whispering a secret in a crowded room. Only certain people hear it, and it fires them up, while everyone else just hears ordinary word. And why some, it might not even be registered, it might not be for a group, but there's a chemical reaction in you. Example, if you talk about black women, you talk about black men, they are killing our black sons. To black women, it's different for different group. It signals something in our chemical reaction, just charges up, whether we don't have to go probe it, right? You stand up for it. So in this case, if you pay attention, you know where the dog whistle have been used. So the question is, have you been controlled by dog whistle? Because there are some people who chose side without even knowing what happened. All they just had to hear is that Natasha is a bad woman because she was insubordinate, and yeah, let's stone her.
Then when they allocated a new seat for Akpabio, we saw what he did then.
You can't speak from there now. You can go to your seat. Then when you get your seat, I'll recognize you.
I sat next to Senator Kwankwaso until I was led by the sergeant at arms that this is my seat.
I asked the clerk whether he allocated that seat to you. He said he didn't.
He told me he would prefer to sit here. So I said there is no microphone there, but he said he will still prefer to sit there.
Was he suspended because of that?
So what you're saying is this is a sneaky way to divide people without anyone really noticing. That's clever and kind of scary, don't you think?
Not necessarily, but yes. And you're right. It's scary because the way it works so well. Here's the thing. Dog whistles aren't just about politics, okay? They are used to shame and silence people, especially women who dare to speak out. In Natasha's story, these coded messages unleash social mobs, people who attack not just her, but the very idea of resistance. It's almost like the Umuada of the women, okay? Why not directly tied to Natasha's case? These tactics mirror broader societal patterns that keep women silent and divided. Understanding dog whistles help us see the hidden layers of power and control, and why breaking the silence is so dangerous, but it's so necessary. You see, what we are witnessing here goes beyond just political mudslinging. It is a classic dog whistle tactics. Shame her, label her, and suddenly a flood of voices, sometimes strangers that don't even know your life. They don't know it. Either online speculators, keyboard warriors, sometimes people from your own community come out of the woodworks to attack you. It's like a signal that unleashes social mobs, for lack of a better word, or probably zombies, to silence the woman through shame and intimidation. It's not peculiar to women, but most of the times it is used on us, because sometimes we're very emotional and we are gatekeepers, you know.
Wow. It's heartbreaking how often women end up policing each other, sometimes without even realizing it.
Yeah. You see, this isn't just about Natasha or one isolated incident. It's a systemic problem where culture, technology, and power combine to keep women silent. Social media becomes a battleground where misogyny is amplified and coordinated harassment campaign thrives. I don't know if you saw this that happened of recent, where this lady, her husband came to online to report her because, get this, and you can't make this shit up. He literally brought a child outside their matrimonial home and expected her to be a devoted, submissive, agreeable wife, everly so devoted to raise the child and smile like nothing happened. And the woman was like, you know what? This is not what I bargained for, as she should. Right? And decided, peace out, sign out. I'm no longer indulging in this madness. And the man went to online in-laws, cried, and then women all over probably shunned her, told her how she's messing with her crown, disgracing her family. That culture of silence and shame got the woman back home. Let her tomorrow now, when the woman do not feel connected because she feel cheated, right? You shouldn't be tricked. You know? Like, how many men would want to be with a woman who have other children? I know there are very, very few, but even at that, if you come tricking him, believe you me, everybody will be on your neck and say how you're a Jezebel. But now, you flip it. You see? You see, understanding this helps us see why speaking out is so risky and why solidarity is crucial. When a woman dares to break the silence, the backlash isn't just from the powerful men she challenges, but also from the very communities that should support her. This is why victim blaming and internalized misogyny are so everly dangerous. They fracture the very support system survivors need. And is why we must be vigilant, compassionate, and united in standing with women who speak truth to power.
Yes. But you know, Amaka, the more I think about it, you raised a point earlier. I see that sometimes, and I'm speaking as a man, the problem is actually what people call bro code. Is this unspoken rule about men to always have each other's back no matter what, even if it happens to be protecting bad behaviors or ignoring women's experience? Basically, is men putting men before women. And that creates a culture where men protect each other from accountability, especially when it comes to sexual harassment or abuse. But here's the thing, the bro code isn't just about men protecting men. Because sometimes we dey fall our hands for this now. We dey fall our hands. Because you see one guy in the mess up. You know, say guy, you mess up. You see this your side chick where they bring for house. You see this your side chick, you know they bring her for house. Or you see, at least respect madam, or at least no go beat your wife. No go beat her. Then you see all these things happening, and then when they tell you, I ask you outside what happened, you be like, no, that's not my bro, my G for life. Or you see all these things because you don't want to be ostracized amongst the men, because we men, whether you like it or not, we get kicked too, you know, you can be ostracized. Then because of that, you protect the man's bad behavior. That's how it keeps increasing. I'm like the leader. We need to start thinking like leaders. Now, how can you be a leader if bro code, which is used to maintaining power structures that silence women and to keep the cycle of bad behavior? And sometimes women get caught up in the middle. They caught up in it too, whether knowingly or not, because it's so deeply ingrained in the society.
Exactly, Ebuka.
So the question now is, how do we change that? How do we get men to challenge their own bro code? I like some aspect of bro code, though, not when it is to the detriment of our society, our children, and our women. And stand up for injustice instead of silencing women. And how do we support women who are brave enough to speak despite their race? Because that is important. What Natasha did was big, to come in the presence of people who are trying to disparage her, spoil her name, smear her image. How do we be a form of support to you guys, because I notice there's some men who really are out there who really want to be support. I'm not saying, I know sometimes you correct me that I am not an ally. I am an ally. But still being vetted. I agree. There are some men who just want to stand on the line and help when necessary, not overshadow your voice. How do we come in?
That's an interesting question, and you're on the right track. But I would say that's the fight we're all part of right now. Maybe the least you could do is show up. Even when it's risky, speak up. You know? Speak up. It starts with conversation like this, calling out harmful norms, building empathy, and standing in solidarity. Because the real change means dismantling the structures that protect abusers and silence survivors. The nation was watching. Because we all see what happens behind the scene. Protests erupted. Women groups like Rapper condemned the Senate actions. Social media exploded with hashtags like Justice for Natasha, We Stand with Natasha, Sexual Harassment is not politics. You know, things like this were coming out. As support was also coming from Natasha, support was coming for Senator Godwin. In fact, even his wife came out swearing on how the man is a decent man, how he know no woman that ever since he set his eyes on her, that she has been the best thing since sliced bread with him, that in fact whenever he works amongst other women, he is automatically and spiritually castrated until he lays his eye back on her. And how Natasha is probably, you know, I understand that. I don't even blame her, because that is her husband. Okay, that is her man. I won't fault a woman for standing up for her family, especially knowing this is the community I come from. I mean, that's an ideal thing. Well, not when he's facing such magnitude of such magnitude of accusation, unless you know and you're certain that's he's innocent. And even at that, I doubt any man who is responsible would want to throw his wife out there. He would want to protect his image of his family.
Exactly. When I saw that video, a friend of mine sent it to me, and even he was almost supporting Akpabio. It wasn't only he was really standing up for him. But when he saw his wife coming out, he was trying to make up like, guy, I'm suspecting you. Are you sure? Yeah, alright. Because which man, a protector, would want to push his wife out there? It says a lot about you. It says a lot about you. Leadership in the mode.
Yeah, don't get me started with the women in the Senate. Because only one stood with Natasha, and that is Stella Odua. I will mention their names because they deserve that accolade. Others like Senator Uche Ekunefe and Fatimat Raji distance themselves or criticize her. Senator Fatima even said a woman of her status cannot be harassed. When I heard it, I say, yeah. You say what? I literally had to run inside, clean my ear with I had to clean my ear with cotton bud, because there are some things you don't say, you shouldn't be caught saying. There are some things that are inclusive thoughts. But for you to come out here, it shows you're actually tone deaf. A woman of her status cannot be. Uche, my own sister, said this is not how we resolve issues in the Senate. How do you resolve it? You know, that's the issue. That's why we want them to let us in what is happening. They need to give, what are they calling it? Rules on how to resolve Senate issues, including when they're using maize to black each other's head. Right? Like, they need to write down the do's and don'ts. If you are trampled on, if you are molested, if you are harassed, you don't solve things by voicing it out. Because I really want to know. I'm curious. Are you guys not curious? I want to jot down things. It's just me being curious. Because a lot of things didn't make sense. The victim blaming at its worst. Activist Aisha is one woman God will bless. Aisha Yusuf. She called that Akpabio for harassing the only two vocal female senators, Natasha and Ireti, showing how women who speak out. See, and the truth is that when you look at these things, you find out that if not that people did not keep quiet, because sometimes your silence is giving up your voice. When people started speaking out, people had to come correct. People had to come correct. Because Kilowi, what do you mean? There was something Natasha did that was fitting me. Why they silenced her? They said, okay, you guys should be silenced. A lot of things were happening in the corridor to silence a Queen and more. Of course, she wasn't silenced. All of a sudden, I was wondering, and when this thing was happening, I was just shook because there were news of thousands of signatures recalling her, like a lot of things, even people from her hometown. I don't know. They came out and said allegedly, because at a point the news started coming out that some things were doctors, some things were fake. But I don't want to digress. I don't want to jump over. Let me follow it accordingly, right? But I was scared on her behalf. I was like, oh my goodness, who will show up, because she must be hated. Lo and behold, regardless of all the obstacles, closing of they even banned her rally. Regardless of all those things, she still arrived. She arrived and rose like Razalot. She descended like manna from heaven, and it was glorious. It was magnific.
People. She decided to go and see her people. She said, hell no. Nobody will prevent me from seeing my people.
That was, it would have been easier to silence her if she didn't have affluence. And this was amidst the smear campaign. Despite all the noise, the smear campaigns, and the government attempt to silence her, Natasha homecoming to her hometown told a different story. All of a sudden, some people understood what was happening. Thousands of people from 5 local government areas of Kogi Central defied the curfew and the roadblock to welcome the daughter of the soil, the true daughter of the land. She arrived by helicopter, greeted with cheers, music, chants, calling her a true daughter. As she is. And here is the thing. This wasn't a stage event compared to the doctored signatures. No. Many of her constituents saw through the smear tactics and the political theatrics. They know her work, her dedication, and her fight for their community. Sometimes some of these people, they feel like we're fools. Sometimes we might cower under threat, because Nigerians, we have this thing we call mind our business factor, and that's why the country keep getting worse and worse. We are supposed to be the giant Africa, because the reason why I'm saying all these things, because even though some attempts we are done to hide the truth, but you could smell it, because even the smear campaign, the PR, like I said earlier, it was not PRing. And as the father of Africa, as the giant of Africa, we should be ashamed, because look at Kenya, look at Burkina Faso, look at them, look at us. But one thing I love is that people who understand, there are people who are already tired of all this mishandling of funds, lying to the people. People are getting tired, and I think that is what is happening. Maybe if this thing happened 5 years ago, some people, this might have just happened so easily. They would have gotten away with it. And if Natasha have not been present in her workings, showing workers and not doing cho, evidence is there. The data is there. Do your research. People see, and that was why they rallied. Even see, some people had to trek. Some people had to trek to make this mandate because they were like, come sis, we hear the news, come talk to us. We are your people. You can imagine you not being safe in your own hometown. So why some try to paint her as isolated or unpopular, the reality on ground is clear. Natasha remains loved and respected by many who are not tone deaf, who can read the room, who can stand with her. The questions we should ask ourselves is, why was Natasha told not to hold rallies in her own hometown? The Kogi state government banned all rallies and public gathering in April 2025, citing intelligence reports of planned violence, rallies disguised as political and religious agitation. The Commissioner for Information, Kingsley Forward, even explained these measures were necessary to prevent unrest and protect lives. Wow. Roads leading to her hometown were barricaded, security forces were deployed heavily. Are you asking yourself, for who? Who is this for? Just a woman, a mere woman? You've taken her security, you've taken, like, really, how much of a threat does she pose? This is super story. You would think this kind of effort would be reserved for fighting Nigerians' real insurgency and insecurity challenges. But instead, it was used to suppress a peaceful rally by a daughter. And if you saw the video, oh God. This is podcast and you hear some of it, but go watch the video for some of you who haven't seen it. For some of you who are new into Nigerian politics. That's why I'm taking my time to break all these things now, to take you through the whole ordeals so that you grasp the full concept of it. So even if you don't understand the parties involved, what is happening, at least with all this, you understand where this is coming from. And you can see the picture. And it's sad that strangers will look at this caricature of a government and decide that, oh, we are all jokers. But the truth has to be told. You know? The recall petitions was riddled with forged signatures. Leaked video shows politicians falsifying names to inflate the petitions. Natasha legal team reported this to the police, accusing some APC members of criminal forgery. The Independent National Electoral Commission, if you don't know that, that's the INEC, the body responsible for overseeing elections. They are the ones responsible for elections in Nigeria. The letter invalidated most of the signatures, stating they fell far below the legal threshold. The recall failed, but not before exposing how vulnerable communities can be manipulated into police. Because at a point when all these things were flying about her recall, the votes and all, because he stated earlier that I was scared. I was like, she must be hated. But you might think people might not be that educated, but people know. Right? Even a child could see through this. That they had to call and say, no, we don't know what is happening because we were lied to. We were told we were coming here for immunities. And we came, they told us to sign something only for us to hear in the news. Because some of them might not be, some of them listen to the news. Even when they are in the farm, they are listening to the news with their radio, on their radio station, on their phone. It's easy to browse things nowadays. It's very easy. And they were like, no, this is not what happened. Victim blaming isn't just an attitude, it's a system. Very systematic, and it is deep in the society. Senator Fatima dismissing Natasha ordeal, saying a woman's heart stature cannot be harassed. Their words, including Uche, who said this is not how we resolve issues. Their words reveal how victim blaming silences women, even from those who should stand in solidarity. Because I'll be asking these women, you guys are only 4. Among how many men? You guys are they are not even protected. You are not. Have you ever felt silence when speaking up? Be it at work, school, or home? You see, Natasha's story shows courage. It isn't about being unbreakable, no, because sometimes you're a human, you break. Sometimes, at least getting to that point, seeing so much hate, especially from people who misunderstood. But he's standing tall despite the fear. If she faced this, imagine the countless others without power or money who suffer in silence. Supporting survivor is also about justice of equality, at least in equity, and changing a culture that shields predators. Natasha challenged her suspension in the courts. The Federal High Court in Abuja is expected to rule on. So as of now, legal battle. Natasha challenged her suspension in the courts because why should she be suspended? For what? On what ground? The Federal High Court in Abuja is expected to rule on June 27th, which we are watching this year. That will be 3 days after my birthday. Her lawyer said the Senate violated her right. See, I'll be so happy if this would be as a birthday gift for them to actually properly investigate this. I mean, I like the money and the gift, but this will also be a good thing, an intangible gift. This case could change how sexual harassment and discipline are handled in Nigerian politics. I want you guys to understand something. You see, Natasha is only one woman with few other women. Kogi is just one state, a constituency, so if it wasn't the whole state, because she had some enemies even in her own homeland. The truth is that if these people that are not even up to a handful could bring such change, at least to stop this when it was happening, imagine what we all can do when we put our heads together. We need people like Aisha. We need people in all the seats who will bring faith. And we need men who will stand up for the truth. We need them too. Because we are all in this together. And I know we have painted Natasha, a lot of news you are going on, but I don't want us to forget who Natasha is. First female senator from Kogi. Politician of the year 2023. Delivered over 5,120 digital learning tablets to students in Kogi Central. Rehabilitated 14 police stations to improve security. Sponsored bills on gender equality and rural electrification. She's done more than many in years. Yet, headlines focus on loudness or appearance. And even this one, when they were talking about how she dresses provocatively, go in and do your research on Natasha. She's always covering up. That was when I knew that these people are just making up any excuses that come to their head and their asses. Like, it's not funny.
Wow. This gets worse every time.
Yes, it does. And the fight isn't over. The recall petition failed. The court case is pending. But you know what? So also are we. We the public, we are watching. Natasha remains a breath of fresh air for change. Loved by some. Feared by others. But here is what matters. When power tried to silence her, she spoke louder. When fear came knocking, she showed up. When the seat was denied, she stood tall. And in doing so, she reminds us all, silence is complicity. Courage is contagious. And the seat doesn't make a senator, but the service. You know what I'm thinking? Do you think most of these senators who saw the truth and turned a blind eye to it, do you think they will go this extra mile to disgrace themselves and embarrass themselves publicly if government work was purely on service and not the gain?
Story for the gods.
Sadly, you're right. And maybe that's what we should push for. When I just look at what is happening in Botswana and in Kenya, leaders stepping down for not doing the rightful thing, I say to myself, we are 80 years backwards when it comes to this approach. So what do we do with this story? Let's not just keep quiet because the battle is not over. Let's talk about it. Share it. Ask your elected officials where they stand. Support the women who speak up even when their voices shake. And when systems try to shut down the truth, let's make sure we stay very loud. Let them know that we can't be silenced. And this isn't just Natasha's story. No. This is a reflection of how power reacts to resistance. This is the story of every girl's child. And it's up to us to make sure the resistance is not in vain. Power can intimidate, but it can't erase the truth. And the truth is we all have a role in this. Thanks for listening. This is Amaka Off Scripts. And special thanks to Ebuka for joining me. If the story moved you, share it, rate the show, and leave a review. And remember, when the system says sit down, stand tall. Until I see you, bye.
Bye.